Good afternoon, everyone. And a big thank you to all of you for braving the Mumbai traffic and being here on a Monday afternoon. I hope you get something worthwhile from this discussion. So just to reiterate the topic again, what we are going to discuss today and what I'll be picking the brains of the panelists on is a topic which is how does a foreseeable HR stack look like? And how are we going to integrate or envision the much talked about AI, wellness platforms, and the various branding tools that we have in the market into it, right? So, welcome panelists. I'm honored to be part of this group. And we have a very diversified panelist today, one from a startup industry, one from a mid-sized organization, and one from Reliance Industries, which is one of the biggest conglomerates. So to start with, I'll start with the ladies first. To you, Shweta, since you're from a startup industry, I would want to ask you that with a lot of companies these days investing a lot of time, money, energy, strategizing the various wellness platforms, the first thing when something like that is launched, the question that gets thrown back to us is the big question of ROI, right? So what I want to know from you is, as HR leaders, what do you think, or what can an HR leader connect this kind of platforms to the business performances and kind of gauge the productivity matrices? How can they connect basically to these platforms?
All right. First of all, good afternoon, everyone, and it's a pleasure to be here and sharing stage with renowned leaders in the industry. So when it comes to the ROI, or the wellness, right? The first question, and then which comes to mind of everyone is wellness is all about the yoga session or launching some of the activity. And now why the question arises, because we also as an HR treat it like let's say an activity on the basis of what is the participation rate, what are the how many people logged in, how many people actually, or what is the happiness score. Now that is the reason why the question arises. So I remember one of the example where, there was a one-on-one meeting with a leader, and a leader told that I don't need a meditation app in our organization. I need, something, or let's say fewer working hours, or let's say fewer meetings post-working hours. So when even with the team one-on-one connects happened, we got to know that there were like 13 hours extra where people spend actually getting emails post-working hours. Sick leaves or absenteeism was increasing, and then the engagement ratio also was dropping in. So now the reason was it was not about the wellness. So it was about the workplace redesigned. So what people actually wanted was the focus hours, less meetings post-working hours, or less calls actually. So when it comes to measuring ROI, I believe that it's all about the how you stabilize the energy, and then when energy gets stabilized, your performance stabilizes. So management doesn't want to understand that or they don't want to fund happiness. Let's say they want to understand what is the performance sustainability metrics, and how do we do that is, so when I meant energy, so that's something like engagement stability. So what is the stability? Is your ratio dropping in? If yes, then what is the reason? Because data is not something to start new with. It's all right there in our systems itself. Benefits nobody understands, manager who nobody talks about, let's say, or you introduce certain new initiatives in the organization, but then people don't have time to even look at it. So coming back to this energies, when you understand what is the the engagement stability, then you understand what is the net production, or let's say net productive variance. So when I mean that, let's say in sprint stories, let's say there are 100 stories during first week, but then those stories get reduced to certain extent. Then the third thing comes is all about like exit rates in the high stress roles. Then comes about the growth variance, how innovative people are, or even they want to opt for certain other roles. Then what is the year-on-year absenteeism rate? So when we talk about the business, when we link it to this, that's exactly what the management want to understand when we mean what is the ROI of investing in it. So I believe like if our CFO can, predict, let's say, the revenue for the next few quarters, why we as an HR cannot tell them that, what would be the anticipated attrition rate, what would be the burnout, what would be the skill gap, right? So, and then that all comes when, we launch certain initiatives and then how we connect and link it to the business. So that's what
It's wonderfully said, Shweta. I really like the word workforce or workplace redesigning. So if you can also little elaborate on what exactly were the mechanisms that you deployed or implemented to kind of directly link the platforms to the business outcomes.
Yeah, so we collected this data from our project management tools, then calendar, analytics, pulse surveys, and then considering that, we introduced, let's say, focus hours, like I said, then reduced internal meetings. So meetings were kept really short, to the point. Then we also ensured that, there are, people, let's say, they also need work-life balance, right? So asking leaders to ensure that teams are not involved into unnecessary meetings, or let's say, you be kind of, diverse, have a diversified workforce. And then also we introduced, this
Were
kind
there
of
some
sessions.
noticeable
Yeah.
changes post these implementations?
Yes.
Okay. How did it impact the people? Was
So,
it
see, the
received well,
impact-
or were there any resistance to that?
No, resistance was not there, because suddenly when people got more time to think, or let's say, utilize their time in their work, lesser meetings and all, they could spend their time with the families. So the absenteeism got reduced, right? Then even the participation ratio increased, because now they got time to even have a look at what the other initiatives HR is introducing in the organization. So that's how.
Great, thanks. So taking a cue from what Shweta just said, with AI and data being central to HR, Renu, the question is to you.
Oh, thank you.
How do you think and what do you think the HR leaders should have their skills developed on, the new HR skills that you think they should develop on going forward?
Oh, I think that's a very interesting question, and I'm going to take a lot of it from our previous speaker, what she mentioned, where AI stops and humans step in. I think that's where a lot of HR leaders have to come into the picture. I'm also going to continue from where Shweta left in terms of an example from my organization. So we've all been doing wellness, both physical and mental, for many years across all our organizations, though may not be terming it as wellness. We formally launched a wellness app about 2.5 years ago in our organization, because we have a lot of engineers who work at client locations. And it's very, very stressful for them to work there, because they do not get the same benefits, or they do not have the same psychological support of their managers or their team members, because they're working at a client location, which is an alien location. And this request came from them. We launched a platform with great fanfare. Initially, the participation, everything was very high. We were able to justify the cost. And we slowly realized that those numbers were dipping, and so we got into analyzing as to what's going wrong. And we realized that what was maybe lacking is that we had what you call a standard solution, or a standard wellness solution for everyone. Whereas the challenges faced by different teams are very different. Challenge of a sales person is very different from an RE, is very different from an operations person. So what we did is, we worked with our wellness partner. We actually segmented the offerings that we have depending on the role of the person and the kind of stressors that are there in their work life. And we redesigned the platform. A lot of data thrown with the help of AI, of course. And I think now it has really worked. And we are talking of the outcomes that come to the organization in terms of increased productivity, in terms of reduced absenteeism. I'll use the word in terms of increased presentism. They are in office and they are also contributing to the office more, mentally. They are present. So that's, I think, one of the learnings that we as HR people have to have is not just use data that AI throws up, but also know the right prompts, also master the platforms that we are using. I think that as HR people we need to learn. I think another key learning that I would say is we as HR people need to be, change leaders. That is very, very crucial. I'll talk from my own team experience when we launched or when we started using AI in talent acquisition. I think that's one of the easier places to start using AI with. My TA team was very worried that, am I going to lose my job if you're going to use AI? What is going to be my role? Are you going to downsize the team? Because in a tech company, talent acquisition is one of your larger teams because you're all the time hiring. And it took a lot of effort and it took a lot of, talks with them saying that it's not going to make you lose your jobs. It's in fact going to make you a better recruiter because all your mundane jobs of going through a CV, finding a match, all of that would now be done with the help of technology. What you would now be doing is adding value to the process, where you would now be using your EQ, you would be using your intelligence to see cultural fitment, you would be using to see whether the person is going to be able to succeed in the organization rather than just looking at a pure match to the JD vis-a-vis the resume. So you are going to add more value to the whole process. And I think it went down really well with the team because in another 2 to 3 months of using AI, they realized the benefit of it and they realized how they were growing as individuals with the usage of AI and not being a threat to their job. Can I share one more example? Do we have the
please
time?
go ahead. Yes.
Okay, so another place where we saw usage of AI where I think we as HR professionals can add value is start taking responsibility of the data or the analysis that AI throws up and not look at it as, oh my God. I mean, it is a mirror as the previous speaker spoke. And if it's a mirror, then accept the reality that the mirror shows up, own up the consequences and take actions. So when we do exit analysis, attrition, it was very easy in the earlier days to say, people leave because of salary, people leave because of a bad manager. Those were the standard responses. Now when we dig deeper, when we analyze deeper, we realized, at least we realized that most of our attrition was happening in the 18 to 24 month category. Then again, the focus shifted, okay, the engineers are getting certified, they are learning, they are upskilling themselves, and now their market value has increased, so they decide to move on, there is no loyalty. Again, it's external. Till we realize that no, when we dug deeper, that it's still internal because what they are missing is a proper career growth plan. Are they seeing a growth in their career? So these are areas where HR professionals, we have to develop these skills that we have to see beyond what is just being shown by data. We have to dig deeper. We have to build EQ. We have to build critical thinking. We have to build storytelling skills. We have to be empathetic. These are the skills where when AI stops, we have to pitch in. We have to humanize the entire process once again. So, and of course, we are all in the VUCA world, right? We are all talking about it all the time, and AI is only historical data. So we have to be able to predict the future with the help of the past data. I think that's where our skill lies.
Thanks, Renu. That's very well said. And I really like the way you said HR leaders will have to be change leaders, taking responsibility for the data that AI throws up. Different organizations have different perspectives. I would want to know, Ranjit, your perspective from a big organization as big as Reliance. How does it happen there?
Yeah, I think one thing, in fact, I'll just add to what Renu talked about. If I just talk about a North Star for HR, earlier we were looking at when David Rick talked about we moving from HR to a business partner. So we need to be bilingual. We need to understand HR language, we need to understand business language. But as we go ahead, HR needs to be trilingual. We need to also understand machine intelligence. And that's a bigger thing that comes in, because what we are orchestrating is not only your own department's AI nativeness, but you're also designing organization which is larger AI native, which has got implications across businesses, across the P&L. In fact, just to quote my own organization, last month our chairman, Mr. Mukesh Ambani, he is a great AI learner himself. He spends about 2 hours every day just researching on AI and all implications of the AI. So he created an AI manifesto and shared with the leaders. And in fact, Charles, I was actually, when you were presenting, I was reflecting on moving from stage 2 to stage 3. One of his idea was to how he can get leaders, including HR leaders, start thinking into stage 3. So we had to go back individually in terms of what are our views on how we are going to take Reliance as a whole, my company as a whole. For example, I represent New Energy's energy storage business. I take care of HR for that. How I'm going to take care of that in the AI world, and how I'm going to shift my function, which is HR, into the next stage, which is business processes. And we have to go back with our own thought process, application onto it, and then this will be actually taken ahead. So it's not only taking care of employees as such, but how do we actually structure our own thought process, our own strategy, how do we orchestrate that? And as HR leaders, unless until we start visualizing that part, we won't be able to support our own teams as well as employees into getting into this journey, which is, a lot of it is unknown, I can tell you that much. A lot of it is evolving super fast, and one cloud kind of an AI come and disrupt a lot of things today. Tomorrow it might be something more. We already have, like for example, if you ask me from AI application perspective, you might be aware that in Kanchipuram, the first dark factory was inaugurated last week, okay, which is completely humanoid, completely dark, where there are no humans involved. So how are you going to design an organization for that kind of a structure tomorrow? Forget about dark factories in China. Are we actually prepared for the organization of that? And that's a kind of skill that also HR will have to evolve and adapt to themselves. And unless until we are trialing well, it will be very difficult to do that.
Thanks, Ranjit. And I would want to shift the topic a little bit on the branding aspect now, especially since you are from such a big organization with so much of social media presence and AI tools available in the market. How do you kind of, think you maintain that authenticity of the employer branding while scaling the digital storytelling? How do you do that?
Yeah, I think reverse branding has been always there. You with AI, without AI, you always have people who always pull down a company using generative AI, which is negative or otherwise, or maybe you'll have employees who will go to Glassdoor and do the other way around. I think the key to out there is basically not using AI as a story generator, but use AI as a magnifier. For example, the way I look at it is basically, can you pick up real incidents from your organization? Okay, use AI for outside storytelling and use AI for magnifying. So I would actually call it as a 3 steps process. How can you actually reflect that? For example,
you can give some examples from your own organization.
For example, we all of us run Gallup kind of surveys. For example, in Reliance, we use something called as our voice survey. Okay, or we run a lot of competitions. It could be Lean or Six Sigma. You run a sports competition, and all of these actually have their own individual stories inside them. That's one part. So that's content that is available. You also have a lot of Gen Z that is available. Some of them are on Insta as creators, some of them are Insta as users. So can I mix the content? Can I use creators from my own employees? Can I give them AI as tools where they can refine this content with the real experiences, with AI, where the storytelling is refined, where the video making is refined, where the language is refined, where the graphics is further refined. So I'm going to use the the authenticity is key here. Can I use that? And actually then look at it with a couple of checks that I can do before I can actually go ahead and take it to mass. First is basically, question is basically, okay, there might be many stories around it, but is it really reflecting to Reliance's values? See, people do a lot of dance shows. For example, you might have seen a lot of colleges organize dance festivals, okay? But would you want to put that onto the social media? Okay? Or would you want to put something like learnings from failures or projects that you run, or where you actually have my day at a factory, my day in field, example, something like that. What could be something that I want to project? What could be the employees will be really able to say, yeah, this really happens in Reliance? Or what could my leaders stand up in case someone asks a question in a town hall? You put it on the social media, you put it out there, but it doesn't happen in Reliance. And last and most important, is it going to increase my brand value or is it going to decrease my brand value? I think when we look at all these things, and when you go to LinkedIn of Reliance Industries, you'll see a lot of curated stories come up, and we actually put up stories. It could be as simple as a new restaurant opening in our own cafeteria. For example, I'll just give an example. Reliance facility in Mumbai, which is called as Reliance Corporate Park, each building has a cafeteria, and each building has about 12 to 13 different restaurants. So what we do is we actually take videos, AI generated, and then publish it saying that, okay, this kind of food, and it's a gourmet food available. What would the employees say about it? So by creating these kind of branding over a period of time, what you can actually do is go back and kill any kind of narrative, positive, negative, otherwise, which might be damaging your employee value proposition. And that's how we actually go about doing it.
Talking about curated things that you put on the social media, how do you decide or draw a line between automation and human decision making? How do you decide that?
I think when we look at automation, we look at automating something which is repetitive. I think we look at what is actually scale, okay, or when we look at taking data which is actually coming from multiple sources. However, what we look at is decision making, because the decision making is not in isolation. Decision making is always with a context, okay, and decision making also has to have, especially when you're in HR, have to have a human angle to it. Decision making also has to have something which is not fed to AI. For example, what is my business strategy for next 1 year? If my business strategy is penetration, then I'm not going to look at cost alone. Okay, so what I'm going to look at is I'm going to look at context, I'm going to look at human angle, and of course I'll look at what is my next year one plan, and then take decision I can making in my own hands, using automation to feed me with all parameters and risk mapping that can be done.
Thank you, Ranjit. Coming back to you, Shweta, I was really intrigued with the kind of various tools that you are evaluating at this point in time, being a startup organization. What I wanted to know is, since you're expanding rapidly, how do you think the organizations can avoid this tool fatigue and actually have a very friendly or user-friendly integrated ecosystem in place?
Yeah.
Since you're in that phase, right?
Yeah.
I want to know what is that you're doing and what are the mechanisms that you're putting in place or deploying.
Yeah, and
Renu, you can add to that. if you
yeah,
can.
yeah, sure. Okay, all right. Yeah, so I'm sure we all have been at a place where we are introduced to every new tool every other day, and we feel like, okay, this is something which will help us, right? So now imagine an employee having a HRMS tool only for the HR data. For payroll, there's another tool. For survey, there's a third tool. For rewards, there's again another tool. Then for learning platform, there's again another tool. And then let's say one fine day you reach out to an employee and then you ask like, oh, you missed filling the employee pulse survey. You're like, okay, ye kahan se karna hai, right? So that's exactly, and then this is all nothing but the friction, So employees, they want easier access to everything, and even we as an HR, because many times it might happen that, let's say, there was an onboarding survey which was shared with all the employees, but then your HR might have missed to look at it, or even get the data from that survey to present it to the management, or let's say there was some critical incident that had mentioned in the survey, but then we missed out on that. Now this happens because we have exposure to a lot of tools. Now how do we reduce this is, number one, we should understand that strategy has to be first thing. We should understand the life cycle of our own employee, our own organization, the philosophy, right? Second thing is the technology should come second. Like, of course, tools should speak to each other, but then that should come secondary thing. Third thing should be the API integration. We should understand that the system should integrate with each other. Although I am sure that there's no system wherein there's a set template that we have to use. Every other tool has different template, and then the data we feed or data we have to fill in, that's different. Even for that matter, like adding one more tool, your BGP tool. So the list goes on and on when your employees are exposed to the tools, and even HR has to maintain that. So fourth thing.
Sorry to interrupt. So have you seen to it that each tool is speaking to one another seamlessly?
Exactly. This is how we have done in our organization, wherein we ensure
Great.
that at the end you export the data, and then those datas are not just for the heck of maintaining the data. The data that you maintain helps you to make certain decision. It's useful, right? So that's exactly what we have done.
Great. Renu, do you have a take on that?
No, I think it's very important that all the platforms speak to each other, and while we talk in the background, in fact, we are in the process of getting all our platforms to talk to each other, because at different times of our journey, we've had different platforms for employees, whether it is our expense reimbursement platform, whether it is the HRMS, whether it is the LMS, whether it is the talent acquisition, whether it's the psychometric assessment. So right now, in fact, we are in the process of integrating all of these into a single platform, because it's, as Shweta very rightly said, kahan jaake ye karna hai is a question, because they are also confused, and too many logins and too many passwords and too many interfaces and too many apps on the already loaded mobiles, and no one wants to look at that many. So yeah, I think
When they miss the password, then again, it's you who has to again reset, and then you have to again.
so we are right now in the process and your decision making is also far more impactful when all the platforms talk to each other, because the data of one platform definitely feeds into the other, and cohesively I think we can make better decisions. Hence it's very, very important that these platforms talk to each other. So for example, right now what we are doing is we have to look at absenteeism data from our leave platform. We look at, learning data from the LMS. We look at engagement data from the wellness platform. Then we try and marry कि अच्छा कोई एक employee है जिसका सभी जगह score कम है, तो शायद there is a high risk of attrition, but there's a lot of manual intervention that's happening right now, and I'm sure in another 6 months' time, when our platforms will be talking to each other, all this would become much easier and simpler. So yeah, that's what we are in the process of doing right now.
One quick thing I wanted to add. So in the high-performing organization, so we focus on a lot of skill-based hiring. So for us, and what we have done and how this has helped us. So let's say your onboarding survey, that helps you to, get the understanding about what skill profile is to be generated. So when you get the skill profile data ready, you have the indications of where the internal mobility, or let's say for your next projects, who are your employees are ready. And then from that data, again, you get the insights on what kind of training is to be imparted to the employee. So that's how the systems speaks within each other, and that's how we have implemented
That's
this.
great. How is it in your organization, Ranjit? Is it much more matured being a bigger organization, or is it the same? I think all of us are grappling with this.
All of us have
different
grown
tools.
like this.
Yes.
At different points of time, we thought this is better. So it's like we went to the agricultural market, like you picked up different things. Now you have to put things together which will be a good recipe where employees will consume. Okay, so we are trying to put our heads together, saying what is really essential, what will really help us grow. So we are in the process of doing that. It actually boils down to one, by the time we understand the technologies are moving very fast, and they're also integrating very fast. So I think it's somewhere we are in the middle.
Thank you. Thanks for that wonderful insights. So all three of you coming from different sized organizations, it was really, I would say, beneficial for the audience. Chanchal is waving out to me from there, but I would hate to let you go before without a concluding statement on how do you define or see a foreseeable future HR stack in just one sentence, please? Maybe 5 years down the line, or maybe 5 years is too long enough, maybe 2-3 years down the line.
Okay, I would say it will be predictive, integrated, value aligned, business aligned, orchestrated, then definitely transparent.
Great, wonderful. Renu?
I think 5 years is a very long time. We don't know where technology will be in 5 years'
Exactly.
time.
That's it.
But I think in the near future, where one looks at is, I think most organizations today, we all use HR chatbots. That will now move to agentic bots, where, there'll be a lot of personalized growth, support that will be coming from the bot itself. I think very valuable what Shweta mentioned was something about the skills. So we at Galaxy also have something called the Skill Hub, where we are trying to build a skill inventory for all our people. But that's susceptible to a lot of data that has been fed in. So I think soon we may have, like how we have an Aadhaar card or something, we may have a blockchain skill inventory kind of a thing for all employees, where my skills are there and they're transferred from one organization to the other, where I'm not inputting data. So, the risk of manipulating your data or falsifying your data, those risks are reduced. I think that could be another thing that we could see in the foreseeable future. Predictive, of course. So what we are trying to build is an agile talent. I'm once again going to use my favorite word because we are in a VUCA world. I think all this, managing this volatility, managing this uncertainty is what AI is going to bring into the HR fraternity.
Thanks, Renu.
I think 5 years down the line, AI will not be a buzzword. Yeah. That's what we are thinking. It will become a way of life. In fact, the way we are seeing, it will become, like for example, orgs, the way we are seeing, I see actually is orgs being embedded, which is AI native. Everything is already processized, everything already done. And now you're looking at, okay, now we have all these things. How do I make business better and how do I make people better? I think that's how it will become. So we are going through a transition where we are seeing the tsunami come in. The tsunami would have passed over. We would have survived, most of us. And we would have actually made it as a way of life.
Thank you, Ranjit. All of you very well said. From AI to generative AI to agentic AI, I think AI would still be a buzzword with some other, prefix to it. So thank you, panelists, and thank you, audience, for your patience. Thank you for your insights. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks a lot.